Hello and welcome back to Invincible Asia. I'm George Clark and this is another episode of my podcast. And as you are listening to this, more so if you're listening to its premiere and not the podcast 4 weeks after it goes out, I'll just be touching down in South Korea on my way to Japan for the month of April. But not to worry, I have spent the last month working my balls off to create the next 4 weeks of content for you guys as best as I could, albeit minus the new releases obviously, which I will have to handle when I get home in May. And as if I didn't have enough to do, I have been warming up a new channel called the Celluloid Misfits to cover unboxings and reviews of other releases, both from the East and the West, so head on over there if you're interested and show some support. I'll get properly stuck into that once I'm back. Now, also, down to the fact that I have been preparing the next month's set of videos, amongst all the rest, over the past lot of weeks, of course, is another reason I haven't really had much time to reply to a lot of your comments on YouTube and Instagram. So I do apologize, but I will get through them, I promise. Now, of course, while I'm away, I'll be traveling to Seoul, then on to Tokyo, Hakone, Kyoto, Osaka, Okinawa, and more, but I will be keeping my eyes peeled for some incredible movie pickups after getting some sweet stuff when I was out there last time, much to my husband's annoyance, of course. But I'll discuss what I find on the next episode. This time, I want to talk about the animation powerhouse that is Nezha 2, the sad loss of the incredible Richard Norton, recent releases, what's to come, and more. But first of all, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Big Mike Leader and Imprint Asia for having me on board to join in for the audio commentary for their upcoming Blu-ray release of Donnie Yen's underrated historical drama, The Lost Bladesman. Such a gorgeous movie, and it was great discussing it and everyone involved. It has already been announced on social media, so it really isn't a secret anymore. I do feel that The Lost Bladesman is a movie well worth revisiting that allows Donnie really to flex his dramatic chops and deliver some incredibly beautiful fight scenes as the God of War himself, Guan Yu. And what a great job he does. So that's due out in May though from Australian label Imprint Asia, so get your pre-orders in and show some support. Thank you very much. So, I've had an interesting week of viewing in the run-up to me leaving. I keep trying to watch new Asian releases on Netflix, both movies and TV series, but with all the new releases that keep coming out and the urge just to sit down and relax with a film that I don't have to review, I think it's going to be a while before I actually get round to them. But the films I've chosen to relax to have been fun. These include the epic Hard Boiled. I just love this movie. Absolutely one of my all-time favorite Hong Kong films that I never tire of watching. And then after that, I put on the super fun Pom Pom and Hot Hot with Jackie Chung, Stephen Tung Wai, and Lam Ching Ying. A movie that I've talked about numerously on my podcast that you should really check out if you haven't already had the chance. Of course, some of those new releases throughout the last month have been the likes of Lau Garlung's Kung Fu comedy classic, The Lady is Boss, Alex Mann's Hong Kong and An Amorous Woman of Tang Dynasty, Stanley Kwong's amazing Center Stage with Maggie Cheung, and the completely fucked up and totally bonkers Pinocchio 964, all released by 88 Films. And just prior to that, of course, Eureka Video had put out Shaolin Boxers with James Tian, and a Shaw Brothers double bill of Chang Cheh directed Venom Mob Goodness with The Daredevils and Ode to Gallantry. Again, both unboxing and review videos are available to watch on the channel. Now, I did the review on the channel recently of the Chow Yun-Fat on Fire DVD set from Fortune Star. This was a great collection of movies and a really nice release that I'd picked up on eBay, featuring Ringo Lam's City on Fire with Prison on Fire 1 and 2, which was great to watch again. And speaking of Ringo Lam, I have been getting some screeners in lately for upcoming releases, one of which was The Adventurers coming out from Eureka Video. Oh, wow. I mean, I am so excited for this upcoming release and for you guys to see what a great job that they have done with this. I really love this movie, and hopefully this underrated action thriller finally gets the love it deserves. You can find my full review over on the website. Aside from that, there's also some pretty amazing releases heading our way from Radiance and an absolute corker coming from Arrow Video. The V Cinema Essentials Bullets and Betrayal Collection. Holy shit. This is an amazing set and I can't recommend it enough. A fantastic collection of straight-to-video Japanese action thrillers from the early 90s, gorgeously presented with new artwork, plenty of interviews, and some great video essays featuring 9 fantastic movies such as Crime Hunter, Bullets of Rage, Neo Chimpera, Zoom Goes the Bullet, Stranger, Carlos, Burning Dog, Female Prisoner Scorpion, Death Threat, The Hitman, Blood Smells Like Roses, Danger Point, The Road to Hell, and Double X, Beautiful Hunter. Please go to the website, check out my full breakdown and review on it, and definitely get your pre-orders in before it's too late. This is a release that cannot be missed. Now, let's talk briefly about Nezha 2, the Chinese animation that has become a global box office success and is currently playing on UK, Irish, and other European cinema screens, courtesy of CineAsia. Wow, I mean, what a fantastic movie. I recently put out my video review for this and another stunning Chinese animated feature called Chang'an, which is coming out on Blu-ray in June, courtesy of Dazzler Media, and both of which I highly recommend. So if you want a fast visual version of this review, go check that out. But such a gorgeously done movie that I've now seen twice in the cinema, and I would go again and again. Everything from the set pieces, the character design, and the landscapes are just outstanding. I have long been a fan of cartoons and animated movies, but this really has to be one of the finest that I've ever seen. I mean, the fight scenes alone are some of the best I've ever witnessed. Really, like, incredibly inventive, wonderfully choreographed, and the comedy is genuinely laugh out loud funny, inspired by Stephen Chow Sing-chi himself, which I just loved and really leaps off the screen for anyone who is a true fan of this incredible Hong Kong star. But there was just so much more to this fantastic film. It's a lesson on morals, family, love, and overall not judging a book by its cover, which leaves quite the impression. And while I've heard many Western watchers say how they didn't really like the kid character of Nezha himself because he was obnoxious and mean, I felt that they totally misunderstood what was really going on. I absolutely loved him. But it has been great getting comments on my review of it from people all over the world telling me what an amazing time they had watching it, some of which had went to the cinema to see it 3, 4, or even 5 times. It's really that good. So yes, if you have the chance, please do yourself a favour and go and see Nezha 2 on the big screen. Even if you haven't seen part 1, you'll get the gist pretty quickly. But don't miss the chance to experience this fantastic movie. Its final act actually challenges the epic battles seen in any of the Lord of the Rings or Avengers movies. It's that impressive. So only a few weeks ago, the news was released that Hong Kong director Clarence Fox had actually died about a year before. And although that time had passed, it was still pretty upsetting, having been a big fan of his work for many years now. Now, for those of you who don't know, Fox was the director behind classics such as Naked Killer, The Iceman Cometh, Dragon from Russia, and Donnie Yen's Special ID, among many other great titles. You can actually check out my episode of Heroes from the East that covers all his life and his career, basically. But such friggin' loss. So you can imagine the shock I had last week when I woke up to the news of Richard Norton passing. I mean, Jesus, that one really did hit hard. Now, this was not just because I had been a lifelong fan and owned the majority of his films, and not just because I had the pleasure of interviewing the legend, which was a dream come true. An interview you can watch on the Invincible Asia YouTube channel, of course, but because of the extra unrecorded 45 minutes of personal time we had on the video call after that, with hopes of a second interview, talks of a possible future project together, and some incredibly inspiring words. It was like I'd known this man since I first saw him kick ass in Sammo Hung's Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars all those years ago. And while I was already amazed that he simply agreed to let me interview him, our time alone just chatting confirmed what a super nice and truly incredible person he really was. Although he did give off to me that I didn't hire him for any of my action scenes in my own movies and made me promise to do so for future productions. But like many of you, as I mentioned, I first caught Richard when I was a young teen as one of the ass-kicking trio of killers From Sammo's awesome Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars, getting to trade moves with both Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung himself, and then where I first heard his infamous trademark phrase, painful. I loved him in this movie, and soon after that, got to see him deliver more sweet action via my favourite Hong Kong movie docufilm, The Best of the Martial Arts Movies, or Deadliest Art to some. In this, we saw clips from China O'Brien and Shanghai Express, both of which I did manage to pick up a few years later, of course. But as my collection grew throughout my teenage years and I got to recognise these actors more and more, I suddenly realised that I had seen or had Norton in other films that weren't Hong Kong related. Films like the fantastic cult classic Jim Carrey, Forced Vengeance with Chuck Norris and The Octagon, the fun Future Hunters, Mission Terminate, and Equalizer 2000. But most of all, Richard became known to film fans as that Aussie bloke from the Cynthia Rothrock films, with the Very Good Friends starring alongside each other in less than 10 films, yet it feels like they did so much more. Now, their first film together would have been in Sammo Hung's absolutely fantastic Shanghai Express or Millionaires Express, where both stars would appear as bandits and get to trade moves with some of the movie's biggest stars. The following year would see them star again in Wong Jing's equally entertaining Magic Crystal, with Cindy playing the goodie and Norton as the baddie. This still stands to me as one of their finest on-screen moments ever and needs to be seen if you haven't already had the chance. That same year, 1987, would see them face off against each other in the fun, if not slightly flawed, Fight to Win, also known as Eyes of the Dragon, which I quite enjoy. Of course, both would do their own thing between projects, but it would be their next two films that are perhaps their most well-known to film fans, with China O'Brien 1 and 2. Massive video hits from Golden Harvest that were supposed to propel its stars in the US, but it really didn't do the job it was supposed to do, I guess. Saying that, both are still considered cult classics and have recently saw a 4K UHD release from Vinegar Syndrome and Eureka Video. Now, 1992 would see them star in two more productions together, with the Indonesian-made Lady Dragon, which I thought was pretty good fun, and one of my favourite Norton and Rothrock team-ups in Rage and Honour, which would get an even better sequel just a year later. In fact, it is with these two characters that Richard and I talked about bringing back as a cameo in a future project that I had written. Now, it would be quite a few years later before they starred together again, this time in 2002's Redemption, with Don the Dragon Wilson as the lead. And of course, Norton had starred with him before in Cybertracker, but this would be the first time, I believe, Cindy starred with Don. Mind you, as martial artists, they had all been great friends for such a long time, with both Don and Richard later returning to star for Rothrock in her self-produced martial arts western, Black Creek, which unfortunately is now going to be considered as Norton's last ever film appearance. But while these two amazing action stars look great together and really should have done so much more, especially in Hong Kong, Richard had such an incredible life and career on his own account. After training as an accomplished martial artist and under instructors such as Chuck Norris, Peter Cunningham, Bill Wallace, and Benny Urquidez, Richard worked as a bodyguard for rock stars such as the Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, and ABBA, among many, many others. Of course, aside from his martial arts teachings and those films mentioned before with Cynthia Rothrock and others, he had quite the illustrious movie career, both as the leading man, co-star, and behind the scenes as a fight or action choreographer, with titles such as Walker Texas Ranger, Jackie Chan's City Hunter and Mr. Nice Guy, Kick Fighter, Under the Gun, Sword of Bushido, Ironheart, Tough and Deadly, the TV show Spartacus, and Hollywood blockbusters such as Mad Max Fury Road, its spin-off Furiosa, and Suicide Squad 1 and 2, as well as so much more. I mean, what a guy. Truly one of the best, and my heart really does go out to his wife Judy, who fans will recognise as the unfortunate lady that gets turfed into the pit by Richard Norton at the beginning of Mr. Nice Guy. I mean, genuinely, I am going to miss him, but what a great loss to everyone. So I recently thought it would be a smart move to take every movie I had off the shelf and kind of restack it in a way that was just slightly different, to see if there was more room for me to fit in anything else that was coming in via new releases or other that I was buying off eBay, etc. I'm sorry that I did it because it literally took all day. I mean, like from 10 a.m. to about 11:30 at night. It's ridiculous. But then again, I have probably about 4,000 plus titles to try and sort out. Now, some of those are big box special features. Some of them are pretty much they have to be in one place. They have to stay in one place. You have like the Shaw Scope sets, the big Godzilla booklet. But it got me in the mood to actually then start to combine certain labels that I have because we have so many distributors pumping things out there. I thought it'd be nice to actually, instead of keeping everything in alphabetical order like I normally do, I would just kind of like pull it all together and just see what collections I really do have in comparison to general releases. So, the likes of, say, Hong Kong Legends, Cine Asia, Vinegar Syndrome, that kind of thing. And let's combine them all together there and just make it a wee bit prettier for my own eyes, I guess. Nobody else is looking. It's just me. But yes, now I look around, I think, holy God, there are so many distributors out there and have been out there. I'm not even going to go to the video side of things because I talk about that often enough, where you have the likes of Eastern Heroes, Made in Hong Kong Classics, etc., and many, many others that put them out there. But once we hit that DVD market, and especially now the Blu-ray market, we're seeing more and more distributors throwing Hong Kong titles out there, or any, I guess, kung fu based or Asian movie title, because they know we're going to spend money. As they do say, a fool and his money are easily parted, which I have to say is true because as a collector, I kind of want to have so many different versions of one particular movie. And today I find that some people, younger people, I guess, don't understand that. Get a lot of comments that say, "Why did you buy this 3 times? It's on Apple TV or it's on Amazon Prime for $3.99." I don't want that. I don't care about that. I want a physical copy. When the internet crashes or your subscription runs out, I've got something to fall back on here. Actually, I've got quite a lot to fall back on here, which makes for a problem in itself. But I'm trying to decide what to watch. But yeah, I mean, looking around me now, I'm looking at, okay, so the top of my collection here, I start with Nova Media, and I really enjoy Nova Media's releases. They're very basic in terms of the extra features that are there. There's sometimes nothing whatsoever, but the covers are absolutely beautiful. They are incredibly costly in comparison to others, but sometimes they have like big sales where you can really snap up some beautiful pieces for a good price. So Nova Media, yes, I really like. I just wish they did a bit more. They added audio commentaries. They added extra features that really count. And then, of course, you have Arrow Video next to that, which probably more than anything else, I would say that Arrow focus on the Japanese classics, but you have some other Hong Kong titles there and so on. But it's nice, and there's a really cool mix from Arrow Video of really, I mean, intricate box sets that they've released, especially that Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest box set. I mean, that was one of the greatest things they ever put out there. The upcoming Fee Cinema Essentials, Bullets and Betrayal that I talked about, that's another gorgeous set that I really can't wait to put up there on the shelf. And then we have the likes of 88 Films, for example. I mean, this is one of the fastest growing labels for Asian movies, and we've got quite an incredible catalog from them so far. I remember picking up the very first ones, which were the earlier Jackie Chan ones, with the artwork from the Dude Designs, and now, more than half of one of my shelves is covered in their products, and that's just the Asian stuff, of course. The Cargo Movies releases of media books and stuff from Germany, again, it's just filling out quite the collection there. But Eureka Video, while I don't have some of their earliest releases of Asian movies, I have the majority of them now, and they're very much probably just about 10 releases behind 88 Films in this great race of giving us the finest titles of Hong Kong cinema. There's some beautiful stuff put out from Eureka. They have a very different approach in comparison to 88. I can definitely say that 88 films give you something a wee bit more, I suppose, fanboy at times, whereas Eureka are a wee bit more conservative about it, but they do present them absolutely beautiful. There's some gorgeous stuff put out from them. What else have we got that's jumping out here? Hong Kong Legends. I mean, I tend to forget how many titles that Hong Kong Legends actually did put out there. There's so many, and again, they're probably they're pretty much running side by side with what 88 Films have given us from they started. And I haven't even got them every one of their box set releases. You know, like you've got a collection, the Jet Li collection and the Jackie Chan collection, things like that. I have still a few of those to get. And once I combine all of those and get that and sort of have every title of these collections, I want to share them with you in one of my show and tell episodes. Then you have Cine Asia, which have been slowing down over the last, I would say, maybe 6-7 years for what they used to put out there. Of course, they did a Cine Asia Presents Hong Kong Legends title range. I did talk about this before, kind of the umbrella company kind of worked on both sides of that there. And then I have a real kind of great rack of Tartan Asia Extreme. And I keep forgetting about these. This was another label that I rarely talk about, but they put out some incredible stuff. Like, wow. I mean, just looking now at what they have got there, you've everything from Battle Royale to Infernal Affairs, Public Enemy to Shiri, R Point to Thirst, The Eye to Dead or Alive trilogy. So many incredible movies from Tartan Asia Extreme. And only recently are we seeing a lot of what they put out there starting to come out from the likes of Arrow and that on Blu-ray or 4K, which is fabulous, but there's still so much more to go. And then below that, I have got the Dragon Dynasty, or as much as I possibly could collect so far of Dragon Dynasty titles, because again, on eBay, people are asking some ridiculous prices for these pre-owned movies. But I have a nice wee collection starting up there, and I want to complete that again so I can share that with you when it comes to another episode of Show and Tell. I have my legendary collection from Fortune Star and Joy Seals, which I really, really love, and I do want to share. I've got quite a lot of those on VCD, but I've got quite a number on DVD, and I will possibly share those with you sooner rather than later because they've stopped producing them. A lot of them are out of print now, but it would be a nice collection to go through with you, of course. And then we have smaller labels, the likes of, well, I say smaller, Vinegar Syndrome really aren't that small. They are putting out quite a lot. Maybe not as many Asian titles as they are independent or US titles, but they're still putting out quite a bit. And I do have a gorgeous collection of some of their finest releases. Era 4444, that's one of the smaller labels I was getting to. Again, I have started off pretty strong. They've put out some incredible titles, but every time they do, it gets better and better and better. Same with Spectrum Films. Really love what they're doing. Just wish they would put English subtitles on their releases, but I understand. They don't have to, so they're not doing it. But they have put out some incredible stuff in the past, and they still continue to do so. I do recommend, if you don't mind not having English subtitles, grabbing their God of Gamblers box set because it is absolutely well worth it. So yes, some incredible labels giving us some wonderful titles over the last couple of decades, and while a few of them have stopped producing, so to speak, there's always a new one that pops up a little down the line. Saying that, I look around and I'm like, where the fuck am I going to put the next set of movies for the year that follows? I don't know. I did toy with the idea of perhaps selling off my collection at the age of 50. And if that is the case, if that's what I settle on, that gives me 2 years to enjoy what I've got, to review as much as I possibly can, and really, really think about it. Unless I can afford an extension on the studio, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. And finally, just before I was about to leave for my trip, a new title arrived on the doorstep that is killing me in knowing that I have a whole month to wait before I can get stuck into it. That title was the sixth Shaw Brothers Classics box set from Shout Factory, a series that I have adored from box one and love seeing on my shelf. From that stunning artwork to the fantastic selection of films, this is absolutely one of my favourite ways to get my Shaw Brothers movies. Now, in this collection, we get 11 new titles, most of which will be first-time watches for me, I think all except for one. Now, these include Swordswomen 3, a 1970 production starring Lo Lei and Chang Yi, directed by Chiang Shen, who's also behind films like Call to Arms and The Winged Tiger. The next one on the list is the 12 Gold Medallions, also from 1970, starring Elliot Hua, Ku Feng, and featuring appearances from a young Yuen Wu-ping, Yun Chengyan, and Yun Shenyi. The film itself was directed by the highly celebrated Chen Kang, who was behind titles such as The 14 Amazons, Sword of Swords, Fatal Flying Guillotine 2, and much more, so I have very high hopes for this one. Then there's The Black Enforcer, which sounds like an IFD title, but this is a 1972 production from prolific director Ho Meng-hua, the very same man behind the likes of The Oily Maniac, the Black Magic films, Mighty P. Kingman, The Flying Guillotine, and so much more. Stars Tian Feng and features fight choreography from Leung Soo Chung, father to stars and fight choreographers Tony and Bruce Leung. Jewel for Gold follows that from the awesome Chor Yun, a 1971 production with a great cast including Ivy Ling Po, Wang Ping, Chang Yi, and Lo Lei, among many others. I'm very, very excited for this one. Pao Shu Li is behind The Finger of Doom for 1972, again starring Ivy Ling Po. Simon Choi choreographs once again, as he did on Jewel for Gold. And of course, Pao Shu Li is responsible for many great films, including The Boxer from Shantung, The Water Margin, Delightful Forest, and The Man of Iron, which were all shot the same year as this. Of course, he did go on to do films such as The Battle Wizard, Kung Fu Emperor, and the very cool Ninja in the Deadly Trap also. I have to say that I'm pretty damn excited to see Nezha and the Seven Devils on there, a film I've watched many moons ago on YouTube and remember really enjoying. Of course, if you've had the experience of Nezha 2 in the cinema recently, this may be of interest of you, but I do remember it being a lot of fun. And then there's 1971's Shadow Girl from director Sin Chi, a little-known title starring Lily Lee and Choi Fu-sheng. Then from the same year, we get Swordsman at Large, directed by Su Cheng-hung, who gave us classics such as Wang Yu's Temple of the Red Lotus, The Twin Swords, and The Sword and the Lute, as well as The Thundering Sword, 12 Deadly Coins, and many more. Following that, the late, great Teddy Yip directs 1971's exciting martial arts title, The Black Tavern, his fourth directorial effort after Girl of Ghost Valley, The Blade Spares None, and The Eunuch. Now, I've heard great things about this classic, starring Shizu, Tung Lee, Ku Feng, and Dean Sheck, and I really can't wait to see it. Then we have The Young Avenger from 1972, directed by the great Griffith Yuen Feng, and starring Shizu once again. Also starring alongside her is Yu Hua and Fan Mei Sheng. I like Griffith's work, he's an interesting guy, and a lot of his titles have been put out on previous box sets, including the likes of Bells of Death, Dragon Creek, and Rape of the Sword. Then finally, they give us Crazy Nuts of Kung Fu from the wild child of Hong Kong and Taiwanese cinema, Lee Chiu Nam, the same guy behind classics such as The Hot, the Cool, and the Vicious, Phantom Kung Fu, Shaolin Invincible Sticks, Challenge of the Lady Ninja, A Life of Ninja, Shaolin vs. Lama, and Kung Fu Wonder Child, among many other greats. This is actually one of his earliest from 1974, so I'm pretty excited to finally get to check it out. Of course, we are still waiting with bated breath to see where Shout Factory are going to go with the 156 titles from the Golden Princess catalogue. I mean, just wow. Really, it's ridiculous. I've seen some announcements on social media for titles like Hard Boiled, etc., the obvious ones, coming to 4K from them, but nothing solid. So I guess we'll just have to wait a little longer, but I only hope that they make enough for everyone. Anyway, I'm sure you'll be thankful that this episode is short and sweet. I'll not keep you or me much longer. I still actually haven't packed as I record this, and we leave in less than 12 hours. Thank you so much for listening in to another episode of the Invincible Asia podcast, and again for the continued support. It is just fantastic to see the channel grow and grow, and I promise that I'll attempt to answer as many YouTube comments as I can when I'm traveling between airports and cities on bullet trains, etc. But until next time, take care of yourselves, pre-order The Lost Bladesman, enjoy your kung fu, and I'll speak to you soon. So thank you once again for watching another video here on Invincible Asia. Don't forget you can check out hundreds of others here on the channel. You can also show your continued support by heading over to my new merch store or by checking out invincibleasia.com, where you can read my full movie reviews, and follow me on Instagram at InvincibleAsia. Until next time though, enjoy your kung fu and I will see you soon.